Hey everybody, here we go for our next video. We're going to talk about the cells in bone in this video. This will be a short video, I promise. This video, I wanted to have a chance to talk about just the cells in bones, and we talk about processes like osteoporosis or osteomalacia a little bit later on. You know the cells that are involved and what they're doing. So before we get into a discussion of cells in bone, let's just remind ourselves of what bone is again. Bone, remember, is going to be connective tissue. So we look at its composition. There's two elements to it. The matrix, which is the non-cellular part of bone, and then the cellular part of bone. So the matrix in this case has organic and inorganic components. And if you recall, we had a term for the inorganic part of bone that was hydroxyapatite. Hydroxyapatite was the inorganic part of bone. And again, the main ingredients of that are calcium and phosphorus. The organic part of bone is going to be that which living things made or which cells made. And here we're talking about collagen and non-collagenous proteins. Remember, collagen is a protein too. And then these mucopolysaccharides, as you can tell from that name, it's going to be kind of a sugar complex. So this part of bone is going to be making up the organic part of the matrix. This is going to make up the inorganic part of the matrix. But all of these, again, are going to be non-cellular. Cells can make some of this, but these would be the non-cellular part of bone. But we're going to focus instead on this part here, the cellular part, and let's just look at these four cell types and review their functions so that, again, you'll be familiar with disease processes that are going to be talked about a little bit later on. Okay, let's start with the osteogenic cells. You saw them over there, osteo. Let's go back to that slide for a second so you can see this term. You see osteoprogenitor. It's the same thing as when we say osteogenic. These are stem cells. And again, that term gen means to make, osteo, bone. So these are going to be cells that make bone, mostly. Some of the osteogenic cells are going to make more osteogenic cells. Stem cells have to regenerate, so we keep making more of them so they can do other things too. But some of the osteogenic cells are going to become osteoblasts. So osteoblasts, again, this term, blast means to build. These are going to be the cells that are going to be building bone. These are going to be working as construction agents, if you will, in the bone. And so they're going to be helping produce something called, let me get my thing here. They're going to make a substance called osteoid. Osteoid is it's a mostly collagen substance that when osteoblasts put this down, when they build bone, they make osteoid, and this collagen becomes kind of the framework for calcium and phosphate to attach to. And then, of course, the calcium and the phosphate make up the inorganic part of the bone. So the osteoblasts are bone builders. They are making the matrix. Moving over to osteocytes. Some of the osteoblasts, as they're building the bone, get trapped. And they get trapped in that bone, and they mature, they differentiate into osteocytes. Osteocytes are these going to be mature bone cells, osteocyte, bone cell. The mature bone cell that actually helps to maintain the matrix and also respond to stress. So if you are exercising a lot and putting a lot of stress on your skeleton, it will stimulate the osteocytes to produce more bone matrix and therefore make your bone stronger. Flip side, if you're not doing much exercise, the osteocytes don't make extra matrix and your bone gets progressively weaker. Let me get out of the way here for this last type. The last type here is pretty important too. Osteoclasts, and again, I always think of this term, clast means to chew. Osteoclasts are bone breaking down cells. The term we use for this is bone resorbing. Resorb means to break down bone. Notice these are multinucleate. You've got all these little nuclei here. These are multinucleate cells that move along the bone surface, and they release enzymes and acid to break bone down. And you're thinking to yourself, really not in favor of having my bone broken down. Actually, you are, because bone has to remodel, and bone has to be releasing its calcium to make it available to the body. we tend to think about calcium as it needs to be in bone, it has to make bone strong. But bone is also a calcium bank, so we have to be able to release calcium when we need it. So what osteoclasts do is they move along the bone surface, they release enzymes from their lysosomes, and they also release hydrochloric acid, which liberates the calcium, which makes it available. They then endocytose, they bring in this substance of this mixture of calcium and collagen. They will digest the collagen part, they'll release the calcium eventually back into the bloodstream, and therefore it's now available for use. So it's very important that we have bone resorption. We do need to have a balance, though, between bone resorption and bone deposit. And when we talk about osteoporosis, we'll talk about that process. Before we end, though, I wanted to show you this kind of cool video that walks you through the process of how osteoblasts and osteoclasts work. So I want to be quiet. I'm going to play this, see if this works.
Bone is a dynamic tissue that is continually being built, broken down, and rebuilt in a process called bone remodeling. Bone tissue is broken down and restored by multinucleated cells known as osteoclasts. These cells are derived from monocytes which originate within bone marrow. Osteoclasts play an important role in liberating minerals and other molecules stored within the bone matrix. Bone tissue serves as a repository for vital minerals, including calcium phosphate and various biologically active molecules, such as growth factors. The release of calcium from the bone can play a role in maintaining its homeostasis within the body. The cells responsible for building new bone tissue are known as osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are thought to be derived from cells found to be associated with blood vessels. Once active, they start to produce the organic component of bone, osteoid, which is predominantly made of collagen. Minerals start to crystallize around the collagen scaffold to form hydroxyapatite, the major inorganic constituent of bone, which contains calcium phosphate. Bone mineral density, or BMD, can be used to estimate the strength of bone and to assess the risk of fracture. As osteoblasts form new bone tissue, many become embedded within the matrix and differentiate into osteocytes. The structure, composition, and cellular processes that occur within bone allow it to simultaneously serve as a calcium reservoir, while providing structural support for the vital organs and for locomotion.
Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you very much.